Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories, where we play tales to take you away from today. On the podcast today, we have a collection of stories sure to get you going. We have a crazy story about a couple and their time-traveling baby monitor. We follow that up with a Gunsmoke, and that leads to two short stories. One about goblin Christmases. So let's not waste any more time and start things off right with this 5-minute mystery.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by the United States Postal Service. For more than 231 years, the Postal Service has been delivering our mail. Now, in my book, that's a really long time. In fact, if you do the math, the USA is only about 241 years old. How about that?
Well, Inspector, how are things progressing on the Stats case? The missing woman been located yet?
No, I'm afraid not, O'Malley. Not a sign since she disappeared last Tuesday night.
How's the husband taking it?
As well as can be expected. He's got several thousand set up for ransom, just in case. I'll get it. Inspector Fitzmaurice speaking.
Inspector, this is Howard Stats. Could you come over right away? It's very important.
What is it?
A big box just arrived at my house, not over 15 minutes ago. It's supposed to be some fishing tackle I had stored up for the winter.
Well, what about it?
Inspector, it's not the fishing tackle. It's too heavy. I haven't had nerve enough to open it, but I think it might be a body.
Yeah, let's turn this end up. From the Caldwell Storage Company, Midville, PA, first class special.
I didn't want to open it, Inspector, until you arrived.
How long ago did you say this arrived?
About 6. My sister Abby received it.
Well, I didn't think of it as being anything but Howard's fishing equipment until the man who brought it in said something about it being mighty heavy.
I hope I'm wrong, Inspector, but something told me to expect the worst.
I'll soon find out. Really wrapped up tight. Now, to break these flaps. Let's see. Holy mackerel.
It's Claire.
Good heavens. I knew it. I knew those devils would try something like this.
Oh, I can't bear it. I can't.
Mr. Stats, are you expecting this box from the storage company?
Yes, I was. I usually have my fishing equipment stored up for the winter. I wrote them a few days ago.
Oh, don't you see, Inspector? Whoever killed Claire must have known about Howard's expecting this package. They hoped he'd just put it away in the basement, maybe, and not ever thinking...
Yes, I'm afraid it wouldn't have looked so good for you, Mr. Stats.
How long do you think she was dead, Inspector?
The coroner will have to set that, but I'm afraid she didn't have a chance.
You mean she's been dead since Tuesday? Since she disappeared?
That's the way it looks to me.
But if anyone wanted her money, they wouldn't have to kill her. Why didn't they just ask for a ransom?
Maybe this party was the one party that couldn't get a ransom.
Why, what do you mean by that, Inspector? I'd have paid anything to get Claire back safely. Anything.
But you couldn't pay yourself ransom, Mr. Stats. Nor could your sister, for that matter.
Why, what are you driving at, Inspector?
Just this, Mr. Stats. I'm holding you and your sister for the murder of your wife.
Why did the inspector arrest these two for murder? You know the clue? In a moment we'll hear, but first...
Okay, the lack of information in this one is traumatizing. I think they're guilty too, but your guess is as good as mine as to what they didn't tell us. I wonder if the Postal Service has something to do with it. After all, mailing a body should be pretty rough, even in the 1940s. This mystery is being brought to you by the USPS.
And now, back to our story.
Why, this is outrageous. You can't prove a thing.
Oh, can't I? You did a nice job of fixing up that package to make it look like a first-class special parcel. But that package never even went through the mails. It was here in this house all the time, waiting for you to spring it. It may interest you, too, to know that the United States Post Office will not accept first-class packages weighing over 70 pounds. It's pretty obvious that any human body crated up tips the scales way over that.
can't mail things over 70 pounds, huh? Well, guess what? Except for UPS Retail Ground and Parcel Select, no mail piece may measure more than 108 inches in length and girth combined and have a maximum weight of 70 pounds. This is as true today as it was in the 1940s. How about that? This 5-Minute Mystery was brought to you by the amazing Postal Service. I have to say that we are about to hear an incredible story about time warp or possibly time dislocation. It comes to us from Marsha Williams, who is a longtime resident of Chicago. Here is Marsha's story in her own words. The long day was coming to an end, and I was putting the last of the day's washing away in our bedroom. Suddenly, I heard a ruckus on the baby monitor start up just a few feet away from me. I thought it was strange because my husband and toddler were both in the living room quietly watching the evening news. The bedroom door was a straight line in front of me, and I could see all the way down the hall to my husband and son in the lazy boy chair as this ruckus continued over the monitor. It didn't take me long to realize that the sounds were very familiar. Earlier in the day, I was picking up some stray toys and books. As I was doing so, I was telling my son the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. I stood in disbelief as I heard drawers being opened and pulled shut as things were being put into their proper places. I nearly fainted when I heard my son's voice over the monitor. And of course, I passed out completely when I heard my own voice tell my son the story, Jack and the Beanstalk. I kept looking back and forth at my husband and now sleeping son in the living room and the monitor sitting on the dresser. It was literally replaying the specific events from earlier in the day. The monitor is a standard baby monitor bought from Walmart and is not a recorder. It monitors the sounds coming from the room as they're happening real time. I listened as my voice retold the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, and as my son responded to me in baby talk. The incredible part, this all happened 5 hours earlier. I quickly called my husband into the room. He listened to the last part of the story with my voice coming through the monitor and our son's coos and chuckles. We were stunned. My husband turned his head and looked at our sleeping son. He was flopped peacefully over his shoulder. In disbelief, he asked, "How the heck is this possible?" I just stared at him and just shook my head. This has never happened before or since, and it was pretty clear from the beginning that we were listening to some kind of time warp. I never imagined in a million years I would be witness to it, and I must admit it is one of the most incredible moments I have ever experienced. Marsha from Chicago. Well, Marsha, that is very strange indeed. I thank you for telling us your story. I did some research on the subject of baby monitors and found a host of paranormal tales involving them. Everything from unearthly voices to outright threats to life and limb. Also, I read about baby monitor hacking, which is a real thing. Thieves hack the monitors for a real-time look into the house they plan to break into. Pretty scary stuff. Your story, however, is quite different, and I could not find any plausible explanation for it. As you stated, most baby monitors simply play what's happening real-time and have no recording capabilities. Wow. This is a first. Our OTR story comes from the early years of the classic Western series, Gunsmoke. During the first year, the stories that were told were quite solemn. They wanted to present what it was really like in those dark Western towns. The West was largely lawless, and the towns truly did have to protect themselves from many threats. Criminals of the time took advantage of this by moving around and using aliases to start over when they got to be too well known in a certain territory. Our story today gives us a view into this as we follow a gang that comes to Dodge City to start a new crime spree. The tale is whimsically called The Trojan and first aired on CBS Radio February 28, 1953.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on West, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad. The story of the violence that moved west with young America. The story of a man who moved with it. Matt Dillon, United States Marshal.
It's a cold morning, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, I'm ready for spring, Chester. The tail end of winter always gets on my nerves.
Well, it shouldn't be long now. The worst of it's bound to be over.
Well, I hope so. Here, let's try Delmonico's here, huh?
I'm always ready to eat, Mr. Dillon.
Morning, Matt. Chester.
Oh, hi, Kitty.
How about joining me, huh?
Well, thank you. Pull up a chair, Chester.
Yes, sir.
You're up early this morning, Matt. Usually you don't even start breathing till noon.
It's too cold to sleep, Kitty. That jail stove always burns itself out about 5 o'clock in the morning. From then on, you just have to...
Oh, what is it, Matt?
Chester, that second table from the window over there. Those 3 men there, do you know them?
No, sir, I don't think I do.
Well, I do. Ran into them about 4 years ago out in Arizona territory. That's the Pueblo gang. Never heard of them coming this far east before. Well...
You want some help, Mr.?
No, just sit tight, Chester.
Matt?
Order me some sausage and buckwheat cakes, Kitty, will you? I'll be right back.
I don't want to stay in this town. I don't like it at all. But go ahead, Dick.
Morning, boys. It's the Parks brothers, isn't it? Ed and Rio and Chuck Evans.
Well, what about it?
Easy, Rio.
It's Dillon, the U.S. Marshal, the one I told you about.
Yeah, I bet you did. What'd you tell him, Chuck?
Look, Dillon, our food's getting cold. You got something on your mind or not?
Nothing important, Rio. I figure it's quite an honor to have the Pueblo gang in town. I just thought I'd drop over and tell you how I felt about it.
And how do you feel?
Well, that depends, Ed. Are you boys here on business or pleasure?
Does it make a difference?
Yeah, it makes a difference. I know your reputation west of here. Half the stage holdups in the last 5 years from Colorado to the California border can be laid right at your door. But as far as I know, you're clean in Dodge City so far. All right, you just keep it that way. You make one move here and your time's up. Right then, you're short and I'll take you, all 3 of you. You understand?
Sure, we understand. We'll think it over, Dillon. Let you know what we decided to do.
Rio, you talk too much. Now, see you around, boys. You can put the gun away now, Chester.
All right. I was just going to be ready in case.
Matt, I thought I'd tell you. Those boys are mean. They were in the Texas Trail last night. They're just downright mean.
Yeah, I know.
What do we do, Mr. Dillon? Run them out of town?
Not unless they give us some reason to, Chester.
Yes, sir.
The law doesn't say you can hang a man because he might steal a horse. Yeah, forget it. Let's eat, huh?
just about ready to pull out, looks like.
Yeah, it's on time. It's 3 o'clock.
Be in St. Louis tomorrow night, Chicago the next day.
If the engine holds up.
Well, they don't break down so much anymore. They're getting them worked out so they're pretty dependable.
Yeah, I guess so.
You ever get a hankering to take a trip back east, Mr. Dillon, just to see how things have changed?
Not me, Chester. I've been on the frontier too long. I'd be lost back there. I wouldn't know how to act.
I guess a man could get his rope kinked over which fork to use or what to do.
Matt. What? Oh, hi, Will. You down watching your competition pull out?
There'll be a stagecoach running for a long time to come yet. Railroad's not bothering me any.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Something else is, though.
No?
Matt, the stage from Buckeye is more than 2 hours overdue. I'm getting a little worried.
Well, why? It's usually late, isn't it?
Not on this particular day of the month.
Oh, what's the day particular?
Gold dust.
Oh.
This is the day those placer mines out there always ship their cleanup. Charlie's never missed getting it here at 3 o'clock on time for the eastbound Santa Fe. Not once.
Who's riding shotgun, Will?
Houston Jack.
He's a good man. I doubt if there's any cause to worry.
That shipment runs $80,000 or $100,000 sometimes, Matt. Never been late before.
Oh, Charlie will probably roll in any minute now. We'll see you later, Will.
So long.
What do you think, Mr. Dillon?
Same as you do, Chester. Let's ride out and meet that stage.
I still think I heard a horse went in, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, I thought I heard it, too.
We must be an hour and a half from town the way the stage runs. It sure is late, all right.
I hope late is all it is, Chester. I hope it's not...
There it is again, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, it came from that draw over there, somewhere around that sumac thicket. Come on. Come on.
Look, Mr. Dillon, wheel tracks leading off the trail.
Yeah. Running at a dead gallop and out of control, looks like. Well, Chester, there's the stage.
I don't see any sign of life, Mr. Dillon.
Let's take a look.
There's tracks all around. Must have been 3 or 4 horses here.
3, the way I'm figuring it. I'll lay any odds you want that this is some of the...
That's Houston Jack, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah. Shot in the back of the head. And they didn't take any chances. He must have ridden up behind the stage and fired without any warning. That's probably what spooked the horses and started to run away. Yeah, they shot the lead horse. It's an old trick.
Charlie's still up here on the box. They got him, too. That strong box has been forced open. It's empty.
All right, Chester, let's cut these horses loose and get them out of the traces, huh?
All right, sir.
Come on now, boy. It's the same way they used to work it out west. Shoot the guard in the back and let the team run until they're far enough off the trail and then kill the lead horse to stop them.
You mean that Pueblo gang?
Yeah, who else? Oh! That's a good thing there weren't any passengers. They'd have got the same treatment. All right, there you go, boy.
I think there were some passengers, Mr. Dillon. One, at least.
What?
There's a couple of trunks tied on top and a carpet bag of some kind inside the stage.
Here, let's have a look. Well, the only bodies are the guards and the drivers.
Say, maybe one of the gang was riding as a passenger.
They wouldn't leave trunks behind it.
What is it?
There's stuff in the carpet bag. Belongs to a woman.
There's no woman here?
Yeah, I know.
Well, then they must have taken her.
Yeah. It's almost dark. Come on, Chester, let's try to pick up their trail.
Just no use going any farther, Mr. Dillon. It's too dark to tell what we're doing.
Oh, they were heading toward the river here. Let's take a look through these willows, and if we don't find anything, then we'll ride on back to town.
All right, sir.
I still keep getting a faint whiff of wood smoke from somewhere.
I sure wish we would find the fire. It's getting colder in the...
Wait a minute. Look over there.
Well, I'll swear. It's fire, all right. Or what's left of one, Mr. Dillon. You suppose they're still there?
I don't know. Let's leave the horses here and go up on foot, huh?
All right, sir.
Well, there's nothing moving. No signs of life.
They couldn't have left too long ago. That fire would have burned itself out.
Well...
I'd say we're too late, Mr. Dillon. I think they've gone.
Yeah, it looks that way, all right. Yeah, half hour or an hour ago. Made a fast camp, stayed long enough to warm up, and then they went...
What was that?
I don't know. They're over here, Chester. There's somebody lying on the ground over there.
Help me. Help me, please.
Here. Throw some brush on the fire, Chester.
Yes, sir.
No, it's all right, miss. It's all right now.
3 of them. Robbed the stage. Killed the driver and the guard. Brought me with them.
Anything I can do, Mr. Dillon?
No, Chester, I'm afraid not. For the love of it. Chester, get some light over here. Grab one of those branches that's caught fire.
Mr. Dillon, just a second.
Easy now, ma'am. Just easy now. It's going to be all right.
I pleaded with them. Begged them to let me go.
Here. This help any?
Yeah, hold it over here. Helen.
But they wouldn't. They wouldn't let me go.
Helen Ford.
And when they left, they drew their guns and shot me.
Easy now.
They shot me.
You know who they were? Helen? Helen, can you hear me?
One named Rio. One called Chuck. They sat on their horses. Shot me. Then they laughed.
She's in awful bad shape, Mr. Dillon. We ought to get her to dock.
Shot me. And laughed. But it didn't matter. Not that. No.
Well, I guess it's too late now.
Yeah, it's too late. I'll carry her back to Dodge. Get me your saddle blanket, will you, Chester?
You knew her, Mr. Dillon?
A long time ago. Then things happen the way they do. Later, she married Bill Ford and went out to Colorado. It's a long time ago. I didn't expect I'd ever see her again.
It's a bad thing, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to see him hang for it.
We will return. We will return for the second act of Gunsmoke in just a moment. But first, everybody's got a heart.
That's a plenty solid reason for everybody to support with generous contributions the annual fund drive of the Heart Campaign. Don't forget, what your money pays for is aimed at making the sick well and keeping the well from getting sick. Support the Heart Campaign again this year. Now for the second act of Gunsmoke.
Over here, Chester. We'll check the livery stable first.
Yes, sir.
They could have pulled out, of course, but I'll lay odds they came straight back into town.
It won't take long to find out.
Now, let's go in.
Who's there? Who is it?
It's Matt Dillon. Is that you, Mr. Kelvin?
Oh, yeah, sure is, Marshal. Here, let me get a lantern lit. I'm just fixing to lock up the stable and go over and grab myself a bite to eat. Running things alone again tonight. The confounded boy didn't show up. Like he's not drunk and seen... There. Now, come on, Marshal. We got a fire going back in the office. Come on back. Set us.
I'd like to, Kelvin, but we don't have time. I'm looking for some horses.
Well, I got 'em, Marshal. You want to buy, trade, or hire?
Just look.
Yeah.
There are 3 fellas staying over at the Dodge House. They've been there about a week. Ed and Rio Parks and Chuck Evans. They're keeping their horses here.
Yeah, they are, right back here. And if I ever saw a ruination of good horse flesh, this is it. There. Take a look there. That one belongs to the oldest Parks boy, Ed, and the one next to it's Rio's.
They've been rode, Mr. Dillon. They've been rode plenty.
Yeah. What time they come in, Kelvin?
Well, about an hour ago, more or less. They're gone since forenoon, just come back a little while ago. Look at that horse. Been rubbed down twice. He's still wet.
They didn't say where they'd been, did they?
No, not them. They ain't the talking kind. Just left their horses and went on over to the hotel. Well, wherever they was, though, they must have been riding like the devil himself was chasing them.
Well, maybe he was. Thanks, Mr. Kelvin.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, I guess there's not much doubt of it, Chester.
No, sir. It was them, all right.
And I could have stopped it before it happened. A man shouldn't be jailed on suspicion, I figured, just because he might do something wrong.
Well, my. Everybody has to play it the way he sees it.
Yeah, only sometimes you can see it a lot plainer afterward.
What are we going to do?
Go get him, that's all.
Well, where do we start looking?
The Texas Trail. Oh, one thing, Chester, before we go in. Now, you leave the play on this to me, huh? Just keep me covered, that's all.
Mr. Dillon, what was her name before she was married?
Marlowe. Helen Marlowe. All right, come on, let's go.
Well, it was a real dull evening up until now. How are you, Matt? Chester?
Hi, Miss Kitty.
I'm looking for the Pueblo gang. Have any of them been in here?
Why, yeah. One of them's here now. Leo Parks. He's over there at the faro table.
Oh?
Well, what's wrong, Matt? What happened?
Now, they held up the Buckeye stage. Killed Charlie and Houston Jack. And a passenger. A woman. Helen Ford.
Ah.
All right, Chester.
Oh, be careful, Matt.
Yeah, sure, Kitty. Just cover me, Chester. That's all.
Yes, sir. Man over 500 there. 500 says I've got the card. That's too much to me. Are you going to cover me or not? What's the matter? You all a bunch of pikers?
Maybe they haven't been out robbing stagecoaches, Rio.
What do you mean by that?
Maybe they don't make their living by killing women.
Dillon, a man could get in trouble shooting off his mouth that way.
You're already in trouble. All right, boys, Rio's checking in his hand. The game's over. You can slide out at the end of the table over there. You're under arrest for murder, Rio.
Then
know what you're talking about, Dillon.
Murder. A murder that you're going to hang for. Now, where are the other two?
Go find them if you want them.
I'm going to as soon as I finish with you. I said you're under arrest, Rio. Now get your hands up.
Supposing I don't?
You're not going to make any play. You don't have the guts. Shooting a man in the back is more your line, Rio. You're killing a woman. Now get your hands up. That's better. All right, Chester, get his gun.
Seems like it's getting colder, Mr. Dillon.
Clear as a bell, though. Look at that moon.
Where do you suppose they are? You've been in nearly every saloon on Front Street.
I don't know, Chester, but wherever they are, we're going to find them.
And you know something, Mr. Dillon? When we do arrest the other two, they're as good as hung with the evidence we got on them.
I haven't arrested them yet.
Maybe them other two won't be taken as easy as Rio.
That's up to them. If they want to surrender, they can. I've never shot a man with his hands up. Chester.
Huh?
Ben's barber shop over there. The man that he's shaving.
It's kind of hard to tell with all that lather on.
No, it's Ed Parks. Come on.
And there's just him and Ben in the shop. I wonder where Chuck Evans is.
We'll worry about him later.
Just help yourself to a seat, gentlemen. Be ready for you just as soon as... evening, Marshal.
How you been? I didn't know you were in the habit of shaving outlaws.
Maybe you're mistaken, Marshal. You just have a seat there, and
No, I recognize him, all right. It's Ed Parks.
Looks like you got the advantage of me, Dillon.
No, we can't have that, Ed. Wipe the lather off his face, Ben.
Yes, sir. Sure thing, Marshal. Just a second now, Mr. Parks. There you are.
It's too bad you have to leave that shave half finished, Ed. But they'll give you a free one just before they hang you.
What are you talking about, Dillon?
Now, gentlemen...
Ed, you're under arrest for murder. Get your hands up. Your brother's waiting for you at the jail.
You arrested Rio?
What about the hands, Ed? Are you going to put them up?
No dirty kid.
That was a fast move for a barber, Ben.
I knew he had a gun under the towel, Marshal, but of course I couldn't say anything about it.
Well, thank you, Ben. And if you'll send the bill for your shaving mug to the stage company, they'll probably take care of it for you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Dillon.
Chester, spill some water on him. I want him to walk to jail.
I'll bet Chuck Evans got clean away, Mr. Dillon. The word must have got to him.
Well, he had to do it awful fast. The clerk said he checked out of the hotel less than 10 minutes ago. Kelvin? The light must hurt his eyes. He never keeps a lantern burning.
Afraid of fire, maybe.
Kelvin? Are you there, Kelvin?
Yes. Hey, what's wrong? Who is it?
Matt Dillon.
Oh.
Strike a light. A man could fall over something in this stable and break his neck.
All right. Just don't get excited. I'm used to it myself. I know just where everything is and don't see any point in wasting oil when Now, what's on your mind, Marshal?
Chuck Evans. Is his horse still here?
Yes, indeed. It most certainly is. As a matter of fact, he's back there saddling up right now.
Good.
I told him it seemed like a fool time of night to start out on a trip. You can't reason with anybody that treats horses the way that bunch does.
I guess not.
What?
Well, go on, answer it.
Yes? What is it?
Give me a hand back here, will you?
Tell him yes.
All right. I'm coming.
What's this all about, Marshal? Nothing to get yourself worked up about. Just stay right here and stay out of the way. All right, Chester.
Yes, sir. He's got a lantern back there at the stall.
Yeah. You were right about one thing, Chester. He's trying to leave town.
Give me a hand with this, Kelvin. I can't seem to get the...
You going somewhere, Chuck?
Now, look, Dylan. You got nothing on me. Lay off.
The Parks boys are in jail.
I don't know anything about it, Dylan. You can't prove a thing, and you can't shoot me. I'm not even wearing a gun. It's hanging there on the saddle horn.
Yeah. So I see.
If the other boys did something, I don't know anything about it.
You're a liar, Chuck. And you're a coward.
You've got no call to talk like
Shut up. Now, you're under arrest. Chester, get his gun off his saddle.
Look out, Mr. Dillon. He's got another gun.
I'll kill you, Dillon. Say, help me.
You're scared, Chuck. You're too scared to shoot straight.
Help me.
Well, I guess that does it, Chester. Come on.
What is it, Marshal? What happened?
Evans is dead. The Parks boys are going to hang. You're short 3 customers, Kelvin.
Well, who's going to pay the stable bill?
The stable bill?
Yeah.
Oh, you got their horses. Sell them.
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that. Well, it serves them right. Anybody that would treat a horse the way that bunch did, Davis.
Guess it's over, Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, it's over, Chester.
And it's just as well. This country would be a lot better off with them fellas dead than alive.
I guess so.
Even the moon looks brighter.
Yeah.
Mr. Dillon, you're still thinking you should have jailed him on suspicion, aren't you?
No, I'd have half a Dodge in jail if I started that. No, Chester, it's the kind of a chance a lawman has to take.
Yes, sir.
Whether he likes it or not.
Yes, sir.
But I'm not liking it much right now. In the morning, I'm going to have a talk with the preacher about holding a service for Helen. It's about all I can do for her now.
Gunsmoke, under the direction of Norman MacDonald, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Tonight's story was especially written for Gunsmoke by Les Crutchfield, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Featured in the cast were Lawrence Dobkin, Tom Tully, Paul Dubov, John Daner, Harry Bartell, and Louise Lewis. Parley Bear is Chester, and Georgia Ellis is Kitty. Gunsmoke is heard by our troops overseas through the facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Join us again next week as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal, fights to bring law and order out of the wild violence of the West in Gunsmoke. Godfrey. Yes, starting tomorrow on most of these same CBS radio stations, there will be more Arthur Godfrey and his gang, presented by CBS Radio for our Sunday listeners. Folks who are regular Arthur Godfrey fans know there's been a 30-minute roundup of Arthur Godfrey time Sundays at the Star's address. But starting tomorrow, there'll be 30 minutes more with Arthur Godfrey and all the wonderful Arthur Godfrey gang. This is Roy Rowan speaking. And remember, Lionel Barrymore's your host on the Sunday Night Playhouse on the CBS Radio Network.
That's a pretty good story. Gunsmoke never pulled any punches when it came to its stories. They told him like it was in the Old West as best they could. That was part of the reason the show aired late Sunday night. While most of the episodes were written by John Meston, quite a few were done by Les Crutchfield. He wrote many scripts between 1946 and 1960 for network radio. These included episodes for Suspense, Escape, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and of course, Gunsmoke. Les Crutchfield still spoke about the return of old-time radio until the day he passed away on October 6, 1966, in Los Angeles, California.
As read by amazing stories, read by amazing people.
This time on As Read By, we have a short story by Kate Chopin called Emancipation, a Life Fable. It is read for us by Alan Drake. It is very short, but it packs a wallop if you listen.
Emancipation, a Life Fable by Kate Chopin. There was once an animal born into this world, and opening his eyes upon life, he saw above and about him confining walls, and before him were bars of iron through which came air and light from without. This animal was born in a cage. Here he grew and throve in strength and beauty under the care of an invisible protecting hand. Hungering, food was ever at hand. When he thirsted, water was brought. And when he felt the need to rest, there was provided a bed of straw upon which to lie. And here he found it good, licking his handsome flanks, to bask in the sunbeam that he thought existed but to lighten his home. Awakening one day from his slothful rest, lo, the door of his cage stood open. Accident had opened it. In the corner he crouched, wondering and fearingly. Then slowly did he approach the door, dreading the unaccustomed, and would have closed it, but for such a task his limbs were purposeless. So out the opening he thrust his head, to see the canopy of the sky grow broader, and the world waxing wider. Back to his corner, but not to rest, for the spell of the unknown was over him, and again he goes to the open door, seeing each time more light. Then one time, standing in the flood of it, a deep in-drawn breath, a bracing of strong limbs, and with a bound he was gone. On he rushes in his mad flight, heedless that he is wounding and tearing his sleek sides, seeing, smelling, touching of all things, even stopping to put his lips to the noxious pool, thinking it may be sweet. Hungering there is no food, but such as he must seek and ofttimes fight for, and his limbs are weighted before he reaches the water that is good to his thirsting throat. So does he live, seeking, finding, joying, suffering. The door which accident had opened is open still, but the cage remains forever empty. End of Emancipation, a Life Fable by Kate Chopin. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Davis Drake.
Our author, Kate Chopin, was an American writer of short stories and novels based in Louisiana. Kate was born in St. Louis, Missouri, married, and then moved with her husband to New Orleans. Her stories brought controversy because of her subjects and her approach. They were condemned as immoral by the critics of the time. After her death in 1904, Chopin was widely recognized as one of the leading writers of her time, being described as to almost genius. How about that? Sometimes you gotta die before you get your fame.
The Goblin's Christmas by Elizabeth Anderson, read in English. Once upon a time I visited Fairyland and spent a day in Goblin Town. The people there are much like ourselves, only they are very, very small and roguish. They play pranks on one another and have great fun. They are good-natured and jolly and rarely get angry. But if one does get angry, he quickly recovers his good nature and joins again in the sport. If a goblin should continue angry, he would take on some visible form. Perhaps he would become a toad or a squirrel or some other little animal, and would have to live here on the earth plane forevermore. But if he keeps good-natured, he can come here and have his fun, and not be seen by anyone except a seer or very wise person. The goblins are gracious to the wise people now, but they were not always so. A long, long time ago, on a Christmas Eve, the fairy folk were having great sport. All the little people of the unseen world had gathered together in the earth realm. There were brownies and gnomes and elves. Even some little cherubs had joined them. They were having a wild dance and a gay time, when who should appear but Kris Kringle. Now the fairies did not know that he was a magician or seer, and so they tried to make sport of him. But Kris, by his wonderful magic, changed them into the most beautiful toys. They became straight little jumping jacks, and dolls in bright dresses, and the dearest little rabbit with white soft fur. And somewhere in the bottom of the sleigh, one was turned into a cute little teddy bear. Then old Kris tucked all these toys into his roomy sleigh and shook the reins of his waiting steed. "Go on," he said, "for I've many, many a chimney to reach tonight." Now this is the tale of the Goblin's Christmas that the moonbeams told, as they heard it from the Fairy Queen, who declares that every word of it is perfectly true. To Earl and Georgia, the little man and tiny maid who love the fairies in the glade, who see them in the tangled grass, the gnomes and brownies as they pass, who hear the sprites from Elfland call, go frolic with these brownies small, and join these merry sporting elves, but ever be your own sweet selves.
All of that Christmas music you just heard was brought to you by Kevin MacLeod over at Incompetech.com. Kevin has been providing the music here at Ron's Amazing Stories for the entire run of the podcast, and I couldn't be more thankful to the guy. He makes it all worthwhile. Thank you, Kevin.
Let's join Dan McCullough and his pal Eddie.
Say, Dan, I've got an idea.
Yeah?
You remember the old game where I think of something and then you ask me questions and guess what it is?
Sure, Eddie. Why?
Well, let's play that game. Only let's make it about those insignia and warplane buttons I'm collecting. The ones from packages of Kellogg's Pep.
Okay, you want to start?
All right. I'm thinking of something that's red and blue and yellow and black and white.
Oh, that's one of those insignia buttons, all right, with all those colors. Let's see, is it a picture of a bird?
Nope.
A bomb?
No.
An animal?
Well, yeah, an animal.
Well, that gives me something to start on. Now, is it one of the second series of buttons?
Right.
Let's see, an animal. Is it a bear?
Nope.
Hey, this is getting tough. A dog?
Guess again.
I know, a tiger.
Oh, you guessed it. But I'll bet you can't tell me which squadron that insignia belongs to.
Oh, that's easy, Eddie. It's Marine Fighter Squadron VMF 224. And like the other buttons in this swell second series, it's a honey. Clear, brilliant colors, sharp outlines, why, you can even see the tough expression in the tiger's eyes. And the rings around his tail. He's all dressed up, too, with a cap and a sweat jersey and boxing gloves. Yes, sir, these insignia buttons are just about the classiest-looking things you ever saw. And they're so easy to get. You don't send in any money, not even a box stop, and you can't buy them anywhere. You just make sure Mother gets you a package of that super delicious whole wheat flake cereal, Kellogg's Pep. Then, inside you'll find a prize, an exciting insignia or warplane button. There's a button in every package, and it's a prize for you from P.E.P. Pep, made by Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Next time it's too rainy for you to be out of doors, here's an idea for what to do. Get out your collection of insignia and warplane buttons from packages of Kellogg's Pep and see how close you are to having all the buttons in both the first and the second series. Why, you'll probably make up your mind to eat more of that super delicious whole wheat flake cereal so you can get more prizes. Then you might see how many of those insignia you can identify, like Marine Bombing Squadron 433, for example. You can remember that with a red dragon with two tails, riding a bomb, and firing a machine gun. By the time you get through, you'll be mighty proud of your collection, believe me. Because, you see, these buttons really are smart-looking. The colors are clear and bright and sharp, really stand out against the sparkling white background. And they're made of metal, so they'll last indefinitely. Now, if anyone should ask you how you got those swell buttons, tell them it's easy. You don't send in a single penny. No, sir, not even a box stop. And you don't buy them. You just ask Mom to get a package or two of Kellogg's Pep. Then look inside for your exciting prize, a brilliant insignia or warplane button. There's a button in every package of P.E.P. Pep, made by Kellogg's of Battle Creek.
Well, that's it for this podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself and want to come back for more. Next week, we will have the classic radio version of It's a Wonderful Life, starring Jimmy Stewart. It's just as good as the movie version. Also, Jason and I are working on the new Horror Express, which will air early next year. If you want to keep up with what's happening on Ron's Amazing Stories, please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or sign up for the weekly newsletter. All of the links you're going to need and access to the blog can be found at ronsamazingstories.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.